Percent Podcast.
Okay, we're live. This is Matthew, and I'm back with my dude Rizzle for another special interview on the Matthew and Rizzle podcast. Today, I'm really excited to dive into a project that I'm sure a lot of our listeners are familiar with called Grow Your Base. And Grow Your Base is a really interesting platform where users can earn digital assets by learning about them. And then on the other hand, it's a great platform for companies in crypto to gain a really active new user base by promoting their project using digital assets on Grow Your Base in the form of a campaign. And today we're going to be speaking with a man who is also, in addition to being a host of the Hack Crypto show and the Sound Money podcast, is a content creator and co-founder of Grow Your Base. And his name is Steve McGarry. So really excited to speak with Steve today and want to welcome him to the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So to get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then wrap up by giving us the elevator pitch for what Grow Your Base is in your words.
For sure. So a quick background on me. I did a peer-to-peer lending company in 2014, right after I'd learned about Bitcoin and majoring in economics. I got obsessed with Bitcoin and the concept of peer-to-peer, and me and a few co-founders came together and started a peer-to-peer lending company to finance students to go through coding boot camps, because we saw it as a really low risk investment for investors to give students loans to learn programming and get jobs. That was in 2014, 2015. And we sold that to the founder of PayPal, Max Levchin, and his company Affirm in 2015, because he really liked the idea of, investing in these very low risk profile students. And we were very much trying to innovate around bucketing loans together, because the idea was, if I'm a subprime borrower and someone next to me is a quote unquote prime borrower, if we're learning the same curriculum and we get access to the exact same employers and we both get hired at the same company, both of us should have access to capital. So we started that, exited that, and that's where I met my co-founder, John Fields. It was during the Lend Layer days, was what it was called. And after that exit, we kind of sat down and said, okay, we really want to do something in the blockchain space just because we believe in the distributed ledger concept. And we really like the idea of helping builders and people that are really just trying to connect with a user base. So over the course of probably 2 years or so, we really fine-tuned out the idea. We tested a couple different iterations. And in 2019, we really rolled out a beta of what is Grow Your Base. And the initial concept was very much around kind of like a Coinbase Earn for NFTs. And if everybody's not familiar with Coinbase Earn, you can go on there and earn their new little tokens that they list on, actually not very little, but earn their tokens on Coinbase and accumulate them. So we kind of wanted to emulate that for NFTs, because my mom being a visual artist, I was always obsessed with non-fungible assets. And I thought that it was a really cool idea. Once we saw CryptoKitties take off, I was like, okay, well, let's test with NFTs. And this would have been probably early 2019, late 2018, when we really started digging into, ERC 721 and just seeing what was going on. And when we created this concept of like a Coinbase Earn for NFTs, we saw an immediate uptick in crypto art and gaming. So we said, okay, well, why don't we just take this and really run with it and eliminate all of our other categories. We had a couple different categories on there, like tokenized assets and things like that we were really trying to experiment with. And it was always very community driven. We were always asking users, sending out surveys, and we started with about 5,000 users to really get a gauge on what they were interested in. And in the first quarter of 2020, bringing us to this year, we rolled out version 2 with, focus on collectibles, just in general, gaming and crypto art. And that really exploded us from the initial beta group of 5,000 users to 40,000 users, which is where we're at today, because we really listen to them, send out surveys, like, what are you guys interested in? And that took us to about 2 or 3 months ago, where we rolled out a product called Nifty Pass and Whale Pass. And we can get into that as we continue talking. But I think that's just a high level of where we came from, where I came from, and just kind of my background in the focus on education, like allowing people to learn about these amazing new assets and really building up like a little bit of base under themselves and really helping these NFT issuers get it to the masses, pretty much immediately getting 1,000 users for their project with these 40,000 users sitting there eager to learn about these NFTs.
Steve, do you mind talking a little bit about like how that occurs? Like, okay, so let's say I'm an NFT project and I want to work with Grow Your Base. Like, what happens sort of on the ground floor to get those 1,000 users on? Is it sort of like project specific, or do you guys have like a particular recipe at this point that you guys know works pretty well to get those people onboarded? Or could you sort of like walk through an example?
Yeah. So primarily, it's been referral based. So we partnered with 60 projects to date, the most well-known ones out there being like Avastars. Of course, I met Jim when I spoke at NFT NYC, and Crypto Space Commanders, Axie Infinity, Splinterlands, like all these kind of big name games and collectible projects in the space. So what we really wanted to focus on was referrals. We said, okay, we're going to work with the top developers to start. NFT NYC was a great kickoff point with a lot of these really powerful brands in the space. And we said, we're just going to very, very much rely on referrals and the community and what they say. So the initial response from launching campaigns with things like Dark Country on Wax was fascinating, because with the Wax network, we had people pinging us from all over asking to list various different projects on Wax. So then we said, okay, well, we're really going to focus on being blockchain agnostic now. We're going to go across all these different networks and see what people are suggesting, because from our perspective, the user interface should be as simple as humanly possible. But I think that at our core, the goal being, if you put us next to a Coinbase takes, let's say, 10 steps to get started, and maybe 3 or 4 days, maybe even a week to get set up. Grow Your Base takes 2 minutes and you can get an NFT. So I think that level of simplicity really opened up the door to allow those projects to get 1,000 users, because it just lowered the barrier dramatically for people to come in and learn and earn. So to simply answer the question, it was referral based to start. And then it was community based, where people from these individual networks, like the ETH community, the Wax community, the EOS community, the Tron community, all these people started kind of reaching out saying, hey, you guys need to list this up and coming project. Synergy Acera was a great example of that with the Matic network. I had heard about Matic a little bit, like I met them in New York, but I hadn't really seen the potential until we partnered with Synergy Acera. And that one was like referral based through, I believe it was Chain Guardians. So it was all these really unique referrals from top developers to other developers saying like, whoa, we got 1,000, 2,000 users signed up from this platform, Grow Your Base. So you guys should check them out. So it was all kind of a word of mouth approach.
Yeah, I mean, the comparison with earn.com and Grow Your Base, I like to use that. I feel like people in crypto kind of get that comparison, but I feel like you highlighted the key difference. Like if you're going to sign up for something through Coinbase, it is literally the biggest hassle in the world. I mean, I don't know how that project got so big with all the hoops that users have to jump through to really get everything set up over on Coinbase. But like you said, Grow Your Base is super simple to sign up. It's that like familiar interface that folks are used to. And for me, working on like Scent and then working behind the scenes at the weekly WIP meetup, pure diversity of projects that have campaigns on Grow Your Base is really fascinating. And I'm curious, like, on the user side, are you seeing an equal kind of distribution of, in terms of diversity of users coming maybe from being more familiar with a particular blockchain and then like learning about others? In terms of the user base, like how would you kind of break them down? Do you break them down by that familiarity with blockchain? Do you break them down by other sorts of metrics that you bucket them into? And then do you funnel specific projects and campaigns to a particular portion of your user base, or is it everyone sees everything at this stage of the game?
Yeah, great question. So the way that we look at, if you took 40,000 people and put them all in a room, we very much try to analyze them on a regular basis. We're always sending out surveys. We're paying very close attention to where trends are going. With crypto art, I think we're all very much deep down the rabbit hole of crypto art right now. And that was very much like a community-driven trend that we saw, where people were like, hey, can you guys list this? Can you guys get this on the platform? And this was what I touched on earlier, which was in late June, early July, we launched our beta of the Nifty Pass and the Whale Pass. And this was where we really wanted to focus on people that were just collectors. So we noticed an uptick in users reaching out to us saying, hey, we don't necessarily want to, go through 100 different tasks to earn this asset. We'd rather just, pay you guys and accumulate these things. So the Nifty Pass and the Whale Pass are a subscription that automatically sends you NFTs every month. And that allows people to just immediately sign up in 2 minutes. They check a box, they share their interest. If they're interested in gaming, if they're interested in art, they give us their interest, and automatically they just get these assets delivered to them every month. They can check back in and see what kind of cool assets they got that month. And it really lowers that barrier to entry even further because they can just accumulate them automatically over time. So we look at that group of users, those members are what we're calling them. The paid members are essentially buying power for the NFT developer space, we'll call it, where now we look at projects and we say, all right, we're going to promote you guys to our 40,000 users. And then afterwards, we're going to come to you and our paid members are going to help support a purchase from you guys every month. So we'll come up to you and say, hey, our paid members, we want to purchase, let's say, $10,000 in assets every month from your project because the community wants it listed, and we want to produce more for you guys in terms of like support. So the paid memberships have really kind of shifted our ability to support up and coming projects that have proven themselves, have really gotten out there, have built up a community, not only through our user base, but through various different channels. And to touch on like the larger population of users, I like to call it the Frankenstein of crypto, where every single campaign we launch, the community of that project onboards on to grow your base. So you have just this amazing, beautiful Frankenstein of all these different projects and their communities coming into one little hub, and everyone's learning about all these new projects. So if you listed on Grow Your Base tomorrow, the Axie Infinity user base would learn about you that's on Grow Your Base. The Avastars community that's on Grow Your Base would learn about you and potentially accumulate through their paid membership. And I think that there's a lot of network effects that we've built into it that allow for that. So those are kind of the two groups that we kind of are constantly monitoring and really making sure that, the paid members are super happy with their drops every month that they're getting, and they're able to really feel that they're getting a lot of value. And then the free users and the people that are able to complete assignments and earn and share these amazing projects out there, we want to make sure that they're happy as well. We want to make sure that they're getting the latest and greatest in projects to learn about. And that also helps the NFT developers because they're getting all that traction immediately from that user base. So we look at it as those two parts in terms of the users.
So Steve, let's say I'm listening to this podcast and you sort of whet my appetite, right? I'm not ready to take the plunge with a subscription, but I'm like, all right, I like the idea of like signing up for this, learning about different projects, trying to score free NFT here and there. If I'm a user who just sort of wants to dip their toe in the water, what's like the most effective thing for me to like come to the table with? I know like a Twitter account is obviously one of them because I see a lot of Twitter action going on from you guys and the campaigns that you guys have launched. But are there certain other, I don't know, either like skill sets or like social media programs or platforms that as a new user, I know that if I already have these things or these skills that I'll be able to really get a good feel for what you guys have to offer?
Yeah. So like you said, Twitter is a great one. You know, the first step of all these campaigns is to share the campaign on Twitter. Like that's the first assignment you can complete. So you would sign up, sync your Twitter account, provide your email address, and basically the fun would begin. You go in there and you can see all of the campaigns listed. Click into one. Let's say you're really interested in the Synergy of Sarah game that's out, and you can get one of their transcendent crates or their beginner or basic crates. And you go through the process of learning about it through a YouTube video. You can read about it on their blog posts. You can join their Discord. You can join their Telegram, all with one click or a couple of different clicks. Each one is a different click. So you would go in and let's say there's 5 different assignments. You would learn about all these different attributes about the game and join their community. And that would accumulate what we consider credits on the platform. And then you could purchase that item with those credits. Kind of like you're accumulating these credits. And really interestingly enough, one of the community-driven features that we're kind of working on in the background right now was we launched with Joel and Travis from Bad Crypto Podcast, and we launched their Blockchain Heroes project, which was on Wax. It was a really exciting launch. We did a custom NFT with them that was like our little piggy bank with wings, and made us like a blockchain hero. And we launched with them, I believe that was last month. And we had all these members coming in, and they had earned thousands of these credits. Like they'd gone through and completed every single campaign that we had to offer on the platform, all to get this little piggy, a hero. And we started noticing that they wanted to transfer it to people. They were like, okay, we want to transfer our balance to other people in the Blockchain Heroes community. And it was a really, one of those aha moments where you're like, wow, I hadn't even thought about that. And until you throw people into a product, as you guys have learned, with Ascent and all these big projects out there, people can really kind of guide your hand in terms of where to move things around and where to iterate on. And I think that was really great insight where people were so willing to provide others with all the work that they had done. It was just one of those fun insights. But I think, long-winded answer to your question, but that's kind of how we're viewing it.
So how do you just realistically prevent getting overrun by bots and shit? Like I would imagine you're essentially playing whack-a-mole. All of us have sort of encountered the same type of thing. Anytime you're doing a giveaway or like offering people the opportunity to get some free stuff, you got to, be careful about people making 1 trillion accounts, just spreading it out and that kind of thing. And I would imagine that this is no different. Are you guys constantly playing whack-a-mole over there with like people trying to find creative ways to game your system, or how has that been?
So we've set up quite a few speed bumps for sure, because, on the face of it, a lot of people would say, all right, you have people completing assignments. Of course, there's going to be botting activity going on. And of course, in the early days, we did have people that came in and tried to game the system, but ultimately we had to put a human in front of a screen to prevent it. So we have CAPTCHA, obviously, on the site to prevent the amount of signups. We've had people trying many, many times to bot the platform, but ultimately our 3 humans, support humans, shout out to Lucas, who's our head of support. He will sit there, and in order to redeem a product, they have to go through an email exchange with our support person. So there's a final kind of like, I guess, safety net is what you could call it, where we have a human interacting with the individual that's earned it. We call them earners, someone that's earned the actual asset itself. They're interacting with our customer service team, and they can verify their user ID, they can verify their email, they can verify all of these different, attributes about the user that they've gone through in the past. If all of a sudden they've, written some sort of script on their browser that's gone through and completed 10,000 assignments in a minute, we can see that and we can just simply ban them. And we don't run into it that much, just because we've been very clear and transparent about the fact that we do we call it a carbon check, where we check to see if somebody is actually on the other side of it. And sometimes it's a really valuable aspect, and other times it can be kind of a pain, right? Is having multiple people working around the clock, managing thousands of inquiries and trying to parse out who's real, who's not. But ultimately, we've weeded out a lot of people pretty early on and put a bunch of speed bumps in place to prevent it through the safety net that is a human on the other side.
Shout out, support humans.
Support humans.
That's right.
Can't get shouted out enough. It's really cool that you have this bifurcated user base. You have the earners on the one hand and the members on the other. And like, before we dive into like growth strategy and your social strategy, I kind of want to go back to the member side with the paid Nifty and whale passes, because of the drops and because I'm a collector myself. And I'm just curious if you can dive into, like, first of all, like, what would the material difference between the Nifty pass and the whale pass entail? And then it's really fascinating how you're able to kind of pool the membership fees and then go to the projects. And it sounds like almost potentially commission or purchase like leftover stock of like whatever the digital assets those projects have. And I'm just wondering if you can give us some examples of projects that you're working with to provide these special drops then for the members of Grow Your Base.
Yeah. Yeah. So for example, the Nifty Pass is $25 a month. You get 2 to 3 NFTs automatically delivered to your wallet. And on average, we're seeing them appreciate 50% within the first month. So we're seeing, everybody that's listening to this, it's in the space. They know how fast these things can appreciate. So especially with drops that are coming from like Nifty Gateway and things like that, I think there is a really unique opportunity for automatically collecting assets that are kind of diverse and spread out. And then one will appreciate and make up appreciation for the other two, let's say. So Nifty Pass, $25 a month, 2 to 3 assets that are delivered based on your interests that you've selected. So whether you select gaming or crypto art or virtual worlds, you get these assets automatically delivered to you, and they're curated by us. So, being partnered with all these NFT issuers and developers, all walks across the space, we very much work with them on referrals and, like I said, word of mouth to say, what do you guys think of this project? And shout out to Tristan. He is our chief Nifty officer, is what we've been calling him. And he's helped us a lot with really identifying some amazing up and coming projects. And that's helped us, kind of guide along with the community to say, all right, these guys are legitimate. With Chain Guardians, for example, we have earners going through joining their community, and we also have paid members that are getting access to Chain Guardian collectible cards that are pretty rare, and only a few are available. But I think that with a small amount of NFTs every month going out to Nifty Pass holders, you have quite a cool diversification happening with all these different users that are getting them. So, for example, out of 10 cards and 10 members, it's not necessarily going to be everybody gets the exact same set of cards. We try to mix it up a little bit, so it's a fun experience for everybody. We've heard mixed reviews on what people are interested in. If they're interested in Chain Guardians, they're not going to be interested all in the same card. They're all going to be they have spread across different interests. So I really like the ability to curate and help beginners, because that's the assumption that we're making on a lot of the users, is that everyone is brand new to crypto. They've never touched a MetaMask or any of these types of wallets. They are brand new to it. They've just learned about the space, and they get to see their first NFT shown on their Grow Your Base wallet. And that is a responsibility, of course, on our end, because we have to curate. We have to make sure that, you know, these assets are appreciating. They're showing some value. They're showing these people some exciting new features of NFTs and showing them and guiding them down the rabbit hole of NFTs. And I think that a lot of people that have been onboarded in the last 30 days, for example, are very interested in crypto art, specifically because it's super hot right now, super hot right now. So there are a lot of crypto people that have come in over the past, I'll say 60 days because of crypto art and our partners that we've launched with on collaborations that we can talk about the growth strategy. But I think we really want to emphasize that it's this simplicity of use for non-crypto people to come in and learn about these assets, because that's being that on-ramp is what's important to us. Through education, we're going to be able to really bring hundreds of millions of people into this space, and with the idea of education in mind. I think that's a powerful mission for sure.
Totally. And I mean, I think getting right into that growth strategy would be really interesting. I know before we started recording, we were talking about how in the crypto space, there tends to be this kind of echo chamber phenomena where we're talking amongst ourselves in this like really like quite small compared to like the traditional Web 2 world or the regular world, where obviously projects are much, much larger and the user bases are, they represent like the entire world versus crypto, which is like 1% of everyone. And obviously getting a lot of projects on is really interesting for users to be able to kind of learn about these different projects. But for the projects, they want a growing, larger, more diverse user base. So I'm curious if you can go into some of the higher level points of the growth strategy that Grow Your Base is pursuing to grow out a really diverse user base to, like you mentioned, obviously aiming for that like 100 million user target for Grow Your Base.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool part about this is that part of the growth strategy is we worked with you directly on a collaboration, and literally internally, the word collaboration, or in short, collab, is the growth strategy. And that is, in a nutshell, we're partnering with companies, projects, however you want to describe them, in the space and out of the space to create custom NFTs together. And when we create these custom NFTs that are collaborative, we then share it with our community, and the project shares it with their community, and we create this explosive type growth for both projects involved. So we've done that with Scent, obviously. we had a great time with that collaboration where we had artists, jump in and commission work. We had winners. I think it was 2 ETH that we distributed out to, was it 5 people? One winner, and then we split 1 ETH across 4 people. So it was not only supporting the artists, but it was allowing for both projects to be able to share this unique piece of content out there. And we had an amazing response with people that were interested in Scent. We sent quite a few people over to, your social media, your actual platform. And very similarly, we did it with Maker's Place, done it with a couple of other projects, but we create an NFT together, we collaborate on the design, and then we launch out on social media and into our community where people can earn it. They can learn about the company that we're collaborating with. And that has created our entire growth strategy around that, was collaborating with other projects internal to crypto and external to the rest of the world, and people that are interested in, accumulating alternative asset classes. We've been working with quite a few that I was actually talking about before we started recording this. And just being a content creator myself, that is the most effective way to grow on social media, is collaborating with other creators of all different sizes. Somebody could have 1 million subscribers, you could have 20,000. If you guys are friends offline and you collaborate, that 20,000 is going to turn into 50. And both people benefit from that because your subscribers see theirs. It's not as big, but kind of get the idea of how social media influencers, quote unquote, are able to grow. And I think that's how we very much have focused grow your base, because that's really, really how I see the future of a lot of businesses being able to grow, because no money's exchanging hands other than to the commissioned artwork from these NFTs. And I feel like it's providing value to all parties involved. It's like what was it in The Office? It's a win-win-win when you have everybody winning that are involved. Yeah, great question. So a good example of this was at NFT NYC. I gave a talk with Dapper Labs and Roll. We talked about reward tokens. And right when I got off stage, literally 5 developers came up to me, and one guy said, "I'll give you half of my in-game assets to list." And I was like, that's not how we do it, because we don't want to explode your in-game economy just right out of the gate. We don't want to take all these assets from someone to list and launch them into the community, because that's not as aligned as one of these projects that'll come to us and say, we want to give you $10,000 worth of assets that we pick out of our in-game economy or out of our collection or out of our series or out of our generation, and they'll send it to us in a mix. And I think that's one of the most important parts that we look for, is how many different attributes do the NFTs have? How many are in, I guess you could say, circulation, or how many have been minted? How many will be minted? And what does that timeline look like? What is the individual value on average per NFT? Because I think there is a really interesting kind of bell curve when it comes to the attraction to NFTs, especially on Grow Your Base, where you have kind of this mid-range price point around like $25 to $50 that really seems to be the most attractive to a lot of people that are interested in gaming. And then you have art that's closer to the $100 range, is what we're seeing. It's where people are really interested in collecting something around that price range, at least on Grow Your Base. And I think that it really depends heavily on the individual value of artwork. For example, I talked to Eric Voorhees' dad, who's doing a diamond NFT, where he's actually putting diamonds in a warehouse in New York City. And he's creating NFTs for these individual diamonds, because diamonds inherently are non-fungible, but each one of them's $3,000-$4,000. So something like that is way more complex for us to, get listed on the platform, because that's, even with our whales that are holding passes on the platform, it's that at that $200 price point, we want to make sure that they're getting multiple different assets. So, we're looking for around the $100 to $50 mark to distribute to them. So long-winded answer, but I think that those attributes are what we're looking at for different projects. People that understand their overall supply, their roadmap for minting more. They understand that we don't want them to mess up their entire circulation or their entire in-game economy, because we're we're essentially sending users into this new in-game economy and collection. So we don't want it to be completely outweighed by our users. We want there to be other users as well that are onboarding and things like that. So a lot of different intricacies to it, but I do find that average cost per NFT and the amount that have been minted are probably the most important that we look at first. And then also the team, to make sure that the team is sound, they're in it for the long haul, and that they have some track record in the space. They have people that have kind of recommended them to us, and they have some references. And I think references is a little bit of a formal term, but I like the idea of at least having someone vouch for them to say, these guys have built multiple games in the past, or this is a gaming studio that has 20 people that are rolling out multiple games here. Like you have Ethical Games, you have your Lucid site, you have all these kind of studios that are rolling out games, have a already profitable and consistent business. And that is very low risk to send a community over to. So a lot goes into the diligence process kind of behind the scenes, but those are the key ones that bubble to the top as important to us, with referrals and references and cost per NFT being very important.
So for clarification, you're more looking to onboard programs. Like if I sell 1 billion Rizzle shirts, you're not necessarily interested in onboarding individual artists. You're more, or are you, if like established artists, is that like a thing that you do or are looking to, or you're really more like program project centric?
Yeah, so we have started working with some of the, you could call them larger artists recently. And I think that was based once again on the community on Grow Your Base that said, hey, we loved this campaign and we really want to see more of them. A great example of this is Bruce the Goose. And Bruce the Goose, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he started out, I think he had like 1 or 2 pieces with, and we connected with him and we said, let's launch your piece on here and let's see what happens. And he made this custom Grow Your Base piece that was right when the quarantine started happening, and earlier this year, and we launched it. He's done really well for himself since. Like we keep close contact with him. We love going back and forth, asking him what he's up to. And that's an example of someone who was really just ramping up his body of work and his art. And then now he's, on multiple networks and he's doing all these events. We helped him out with Nifty Pride, which was the event in Crypto Voxels, launched a campaign for him to really support him. And we really like the idea of supporting individual artists. But to your point, we do rely on a couple different indicators for which artists we want to list on the site, because we can't just list everybody. I think that's a key part here is we want to make sure that the artists have good, solid body of work. They have sold some things in the past, and they're just kind of trusted by the community. And I think that really helps us, guides us towards those individuals. But we do want to start doing more of that. So I want to make sure that's crystal clear. We do want to list more artists. We do want to get more exposure for them, because we have some exciting announcements coming in the near future for a program around artists that I won't dive into too much, but we really want to help grow the entire pie. And I don't know if anybody listening has picked up on that yet, but if you do take away anything from this interview, know that the Grow Your Base team, myself, everyone is very, very invested in growing this industry as a whole through simplicity. Like we just want to boil it down and grow the entire pie for everybody. And that involves supporting developers, artists, supporting anyone who's building in the space that has a reputation. That's who we're really going after. And we want to really make sure that they get the exposure that they currently deserve and deserve in the future. So that's the long and gist of it in terms of what I want people to understand about our goals.
Nice. I'm taking notes. Sell a bunch of shirts first, then hit up Steve.
Yeah, big shout out to Bruce the Goose. We just had him on the whip last week. He's an incredible human being. And I really do think that simple but significant approach is the way to go. The collaborative approach, partnering up with the great projects building out the user base that way. That's brilliant, I think. And as you know, time in crypto kind of goes at the speed of light. A month is sort of like a year. So I just want to play like a little design fiction game real quick. Like in a year and a half, two from now, let's say that Grow Your Base continues on all cylinders heading forward with your growth strategy, with what you're doing. What does Grow Your Base look like in 2 years? And then what does the surrounding space look like then, based on the growth and based on the impact that Grow Your Base is having?
Nice. Macro question. I like it. In terms of, let's say, 24 months out in 2022, we see that Grow Your Base has substantial user base of non-crypto and crypto people that are actively learning on the platform, and they're accumulating digital assets automatically through our Nifty Pass. And then whale passes we're seeing as being a little bit more institutional focused. We do have individuals, obviously, like diehard collectors that are paying for whale passes, but we do see already an uptick in the interest of funds and family offices that are interested in just getting a teeny tiny little exposure to it. They just want to dip their toe in. And I think there's definitely going to be more of that over the coming 6-12 months. So I'd love to see the people that are onboarding as free users eventually kind of slowly migrating over towards the Nifty and the whale passes. And once we have, a good hold on, let's say, 1 million users over the next 12, 24 months, we're going to be able to have enough buying pressure or buying power, on the whale and Nifty Pass that if a project comes across, let's say on Wax or EOS or even ETH 2.0, we're going to be able to support them in a very meaningful way. We're going to have enough people paying every month to accumulate assets to the point where part of our fear, to be really transparent here, is that we may not have enough NFTs to buy with our paid members in 24 months, depending on the current growth rate as things still, trend up and to the right, passing 100 million transactions. I think it was a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. You're right. It does go at the speed of light trying to track all this stuff. But the idea being that as we grow out these paid memberships and supporting projects that come along that are, have a great track record and have sold items in the past, and they're really showing great performance within the community and very trusted, we're going to be able to support a lot of new innovations. And that's what we've all been really looking forward to over the next 24 months is, if we come across something that is that kind of Netscape moment, that aha moment where they're looking like they're going to onboard 100 million people, we very much want to be people that are able to support that through our paid memberships. Like we want to have that, facilitate that kind of almost an investor approach where we're able to purchase and support these people monthly. So I'd like to see, definitely past 1 million users in the next 24 months. And then also the paid memberships, we start tracking actual case studies where we pick up a really early artist, or we pick up a really early game that have some track record, and we're able to support them all the way through to the point where they're, doing it full time. They're getting this recurring, consistent buying of their work from collectors that are whales and Nifty Pass holders. And we're able to support different niches within NFTs. I think that's kind of our dream scenario where we were able to grow on the earner side, and we're able to really grow out our buying ability and ultimately offer various different instruments to people that have these NFTs on the site. We want to be able to give people the ability to use their NFTs in various different ways. We have some exciting things that are coming to that in the near future. And once you have this portfolio of assets, what do you do with it? There are different things that you can do when you go to various different projects now in the DeFi space and things like that. You can borrow, you can lend, you can do all these different things with these assets. So we really want to be able to build a big community, support artists, support NFT issuers, developers, and also have some instruments involved in there. But one step at a time. we're this isn't our first rodeo, so we definitely nail it and then scale it. Make sure that we're making everybody happy. People love the product. That's our main goal right now. Love the product, and then focus on growth and really getting to that million mark and converting some of these paid users.
Awesome, man. This is a great synopsis of what you guys got going on. Steve, man, before we wrap things up, one of our sort of traditions has become just sort of peeking in everybody's wallet who comes on the show, and always just interested in what creators in this space are tinkering around with on the side, and what your fun things are that you are doing outside of work and everything. So are there any specific, games you're playing, artists you're collecting, things you're just doing for the pure enjoyment of it?
Yeah. So I mentioned, I think either before the show or at the beginning of the show, my mom has been a visual artist for 30 years, and I've been very much working with her to start doing art on the iPad, because she's always done it on, canvas and oil and things like that. Really great landscape artwork. So I've been working with her very closely on, this is the artwork now. This is how the technology is working. And I got my parents to buy crypto in 2014, June of 2014. They bought Bitcoin, and they very much believe in it now after the crazy appreciation of it. But I think with art, it's kind of been my hobby over the past, I'll say, month or 2 months, to really get my mom in a position where, we can mint her new iPad digital art on something like Wax or something like EOS or one of these other networks. Not so much ETH right now with the fees, but something that would be fun for her to really get her artwork on chain. And I think it's kind of similar to what we were talking about, but my hobbies very much consist of this space and creating content around the space. So that's been my laser focus over the past month or so, was getting my mom hooked up on chain with her art. And in terms of collecting, I spend a lot of time on Nifty Gateway. Those guys are awesome. We're very close with those guys, and we talk to them quite a bit. And I think that there's going to be some exciting things with them in the near future, but we spend a lot of time on drops on there and love what they're doing with the space. So I've been, of course, collecting all those drops. I had one of what was the one that I got? I had one of those little celebration dances, when you get one of the NFTs, you got to do a little dance to celebrate. And it was the Frenetic Void tribute. I got one of those and definitely did my little celebration dance after I got one of those. So I was pretty.
It's the only dance at the metaverse at the moment.
The chicken dance. Yeah, I did my chicken dance when I got a Frenetic Void tribute. That was
love it. True evangelist, truly living and breathing this space. And before we sign off, just want to make sure you're able to shout out all the channels that folks should be following Grow Your Base at. And if you want to recommend some ongoing campaigns or some soon to drop campaigns that folks should be on the lookout, this would be a perfect time.
Yeah. So definitely check out growyourbase.co. That's where you can go and sign up and put in your interests that you're interested in accumulating. Sign up for the Nifty Pass, because that's a really low barrier to entry. If you are finding it extremely valuable, which I have a feeling you will, the Whale Pass is available for you, but no pressure. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But we do accept different forms of payment for it. If you just want to reach out to our support, we're very flexible. And being a company that's focused on all these different networks, we believe that it should be technology in the background, and people should have a really simple user interface. So sign up through the platform, and don't worry about any of the tech. Don't worry about a long ETH wallet address. Don't worry about a Wax wallet or anything like that. You just simply have to sign up. And Twitter, @growyourbase_. And that's where you can find us. That's where we're most active. And join our Discord, where we have a lot of fun giveaways and things like that every once in a while for people that are super active in the
That's
space.
fantastic. And thank you for taking the time to come on our show and talk to us and explain everything that has gone into Grow Your Base and where you plan on taking it. And just want to make sure you keep doing your thing and keep on creating. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And just as a side note, this is easily the best audio podcast I've done in a very long time. Everyone has nice mics on this show.
Yeah. New microphone for the win.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Later.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Podcast. Rizzle. Send podcast. Let 'em know, y'all. Send podcast. Rizzle. Send podcast.